Okay, so on this last video of this series, you can see that I've added another button, and these other two buttons still do the same thing. So this one will choose a random color. This one then displays the random color. And then these, of course, contains the color that I'm trying to match. This one actually scores you, okay? So let's say, for example, I want to get to this pink. Well, I know that's got a lot of red. I could probably turn down my blue and my green, so that's all red. Clearly there's some blue in it. You may not be able to tell. So I'm going to just take a guess at that. And then I push this button, and it scores me, okay? So I got a blue light when I did that because, well, you know, I was close. Here's my values. I was good enough, but I did not do great. So if I choose a new random color, I'll find something that's a little easier to get to. Okay, so I've got this sort of green shade, so I'm going to turn down my colors. I'm going to turn up my green, and to get it bright, I know I need to add a little bit more green. There we go. Now we're getting close, but it's brighter. Oh, I'm having a hard time. I should have a timer on here as well. That would actually be cool. Okay, I'm pretty close. Let's see what I got. Ah, I still did good enough. But if I got it within a certain range, I would have gotten a perfect score, and this would have been green. And if I did terribly, like I'll go ahead and do this and get something way off, you can see that I get a red if I do that poorly. All right, so that being said, let me pause it, and I'll show you how I did it. Okay, so first off, the button. I'm not going to disassemble it and reassemble it because all you're going to do is exactly what you've done over here. You push the button in. You're going to have one wire that goes to ground, and then one wire which is going to go across, and I've put it in mine into pin 2. Okay, so I have 2, 3, and 4 all used for buttons. So now in code, we just have to make that change. So we have these two buttons. I'm just going to copy this line, all right, on my global section here. And I'm going to make a score button. And it's going to be set to 2. All right. And then down here, let's see, this, here's the score button. And then down here, of course, we're going to do the exact same thing we've done before. We're going to set the score button to an input, and we need to set it high. So we're going to go ahead and put the score button there. Okay, so we've already now set up the button. We're done with that. It's going to be perfect. I'm going to save this as video 5. And save this before I write over it. Okay, so we've got that taken care of. So now we have to do a little bit of rearranging to this function here, the dim LED, because what we're going to need to be able to do is we're going to need to be able to query all of these variables that are currently set up as local variables. Because I'm going to have to ask what the value was here, and I'm going to have to ask what the map value was. So let's just do that now. I'm going to take and make this, I'm just going to copy this, and we're going to have up here, I'll paste it 3 times, and this is going to be our red, this is going to be our green, and this is going to be our blue. Okay? And these values, we can actually set them up to equal something right now. Let's just set them up to equal 255. Like that, and we will be able to now use these anywhere in the in our code, in the sketch. Okay, so boom. All right, so now we've got these set as globals. Now it's important to go down here and remove these declarations and just get rid of them. Okay. So remember, this button here, when we push it, we're going to be comparing what the computer generated did and what you are generating here. All right? So we need to have access to those variables as well, which means that we're going to have to pull out this map value here. Okay, we incorporated it right into this analog write function. Well, we really need to have a variable so we can ask what it is. Okay? So I'm going to do that right here. I'm going to go ahead and make a variable, and I'm going to call it my RMap. Actually, let's go ahead and create a global first. I'm so sorry. Let's create let's create 3 more variables. And let's make these maps. So these are going to be the mapped values. So once we gather the data in, the analog data in, and then we map it, we're going to be able to have these set up so we can use them. All right? So we'll be able to compare them anywhere in any function. So I'm going to go down here now, and I'm going to go ahead and make the RMap. And it's going to be equal to this right here. So we're going to pull that out. I'm going to Command exit and put it right there. Okay? So now when we gather the data, we're going to map that data, and then we're going to store that into a variable, which means that right here gets placed right here. Okay? So we're going to map the data, and then we're going to use it in the analog write. So we have to do this 2 more times. So I'm going to take that and copy it, and then we're going to make this the green, right? And this is going to be the green. And then we replace this with gmap, like so. And then right here, on this blue one, we're going to do the exact same thing. So we want to have our blue map equal to, and then we're going to take this chunk of data here, the mapped value, and then we're going to put this in the analog write. All right. So now we have access to all of the variables. Essentially, almost every variable that we've created is now going to be a global, and we can use it in any function. Okay? So let me pause this for a second, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I just did a verify. I added a little bit of code, and I'm going to show it to you. And of course, as often, I made a mistake, so it is important to put the semicolons at the end of all these lines. All right? And now let me talk to you about a little block that I copy and pasted from my test code. Right here, okay, so the score color, this is what the function's going to be when you push the button. That's what's going to get called. And what I've done here is begin the process, and this function is going to grow to be relatively large. The first thing that I did is make it so it outputs both the random and the user numbers. So when you push the button, what you should see is the computer-generated color, okay, which is that red random, right, as well as the user-generated color, which is that map value that we've now made a global, right? So now you can see these are all globals, so I can access it in this other function. And we'll get all those printed down. Now this is where you have a lot of room to play. So what I've decided, there's lots of ways to do this. We've got 3 different colors. I've kind of just arbitrarily decided that if I can get within plus or minus 15, that is going to be, as I call it, perfect enough. Okay? So if I dial it in, and I'm pretty close, because remember, we're going between 0 and 255, and I'm not the best at matching color. So I'm giving myself a reasonably wide margin, plus or minus 15. So the way I did that, and I can do this in different ways, and I kind of wanted it all to fit on this one little window instead of a lot of logical ands and ors, I decided to base it first on the red. Okay? So if the red happens to fit, well, then let's check the next one. Oh, okay. Well, now we're going to see if the green happens to fit. So if I add 15 to it and subtract 15 to it, is it, is that condition true on both sides? So I'm plus or minus 15. Oh, okay. Well, that one passed the test. Then I do this one. So I have 3 if statements all nested inside of each other. And if it works out, I get a perfect enough. Okay? So if I want to do the next chunk, it would simply be copying and pasting this. And then I would probably want to start this off with an else if. Okay. So now let's make it something more like 25. So we're giving ourselves a pretty wide margin here. And you can actually play with this if you want to. If you get good at it, you can make it tighter. We could probably even add a way of you know, making it sort of an automatic hold the button down and it changes the value or something. So I'm going to call this one good enough. Okay. And last, we don't need to actually compare anything. If you're not within 15 plus or minus, and if you're not within plus or minus 25, well, then all you really need is just an else. Okay. In which case, you can just simply, you know, copy and put in something here and just say, I don't know, let's just go with pathetic. Okay. So right now we should have something that will actually output some data. I'm going to verify. Oh no, we have to do one more really important thing. Let's go up to our check buttons function. Alright, so we're checking the mix button. We're checking the display button. So let's do another else if. Okay. And in this case, we want to check the score button. And the score button is pressed. And then the last thing is, instead of doing the display color, of course we want to do the score color. Like so. And if I verify this, oops, I've done something wrong here. What did I do wrong? Oops, look at that. I used the capital S. Bad idea. And let's upload it. And we should already have something here that we can use to display data. Alright, so that button works, and this one displays all our data, as you can see, and it can actually give us a score. Alright, so now the next thing is we have to add that color change, right? So this is a little bit odd. I'm going to copy one line from here. And this is an important aspect that I haven't really explained much at all. Alright? You would think that if I wanted the LED to be on, I would put 255, alright, to make it on high all the time. But we're using an LED with a common anode. Well, that unfortunately means it's being fed common positive. And if I have it at 255, that means my pin is going to be on all the time. So I'm going to have a positive and a positive. I'm not going to have a ground, okay? So what I really want to do is I want to actually have it set to 0, which means that the pin is held low. And that's going to give it a path for electrons to flow. If we had a common cathode, we would do the exact opposite. A common cathode, we'd have a 255 right here, and that would make it bright. But with a common anode, we have a 255 right there, and that would make it dark. So to turn it on, I actually have to put a 0. And of course, if I want to have this thing display, for example, perfect enough, I want it to be bright green. It's also just as important that I put in here, let me see, that I turn off the other colors. Okay, so when I do this, I'm going to have my green on, my red off, and my blue off, like so. Okay? And that should actually get us there. So I'm going to pause this and fill it in, and I'll be right back. Okay, so it's all done. I've added the LED, turning them on, turning them off, making sure all the colors are correspondingly either on or off. I've thrown a delay in there so that it actually stays on for a brief time. And everything just seems to work. So I can get my score, I can get my evaluation, I can hold this down, change my colors. It all seems to work perfectly. So I will see you guys again really soon.